Yes. I take pride in playing that trailer that features our next guest. We've been talking about him all morning because I really admire this man from the time I first saw him in Antoine Fisher back in the early 2000s. I remember this specifically because I was new to MTV at that time. I just moved to New York. And those moments of nostalgia remind me of a time when I was developing my purpose in this entertainment game, and just watching this man's work and how the work he does aligns with who he is outside of work is really impressive. DB, I want you to do the honors if you don't mind.
Well, it's crazy because you were talking about purpose, and that purpose is basically the premise of this film that he's talking about, the crossover, in addition to the other, the series of crossover in the film that he's also promoting. But I wanted to tell you that I was talking about Friday Night Lights the other day where you played Boobie Miles, and I grew up in a town in Louisville, Texas that was very similar to that like high school setting where football was everything. If you were the quarterback, you could get away with murder. And then it was just like that. Once that ends, people didn't really have like anything to do, you know what I mean? So watching, the crossover and seeing like what happens when your dreams change and when you have to figure out what's next for me if this doesn't work out or if something happened to where it didn't work out. So he's playing Chuck Bell on the series The Crossover, streaming now on Disney Plus, and he's reuniting with citizen of Sway in the Morning, Katie Holmes, who's directing the film Rare Objects, which will release on Friday, April 14th. Please welcome our good friend Derek Luke.
Derek Luke.
What's up, sir?
Hey, what up, man?
How y'all doing, man? Blessed to be here always, man. There's a crazy energy in this, in here, man.
Yeah.
It's spiritual, it's grounded, and it just feels good.
It's the Lions Den.
Yeah,
It's the Lions Den.
It's the Lions Den.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Well, you're normally Heather and Tracy are here, so and when they're here, I'm very restricted on what I can say and do sometimes,
Okay.
So, but yeah, man, that's what this is rooted in. You know what I mean? This show, these platforms are just conduits. We are just conduits for a larger purpose in a sense. You came in here and we were talking about Toby and Wigway.
Yeah.
And I know you a hip hop head, man. So were you introduced to Toby on this show?
Actually, my boy Chris Emden, Professor Chris Emden, who my wife and I do work with. I was like, yo, who you listening to, man? Because like when I'm in, LA, I'm busy, and he was like, yo, Toby, and I was like, yo, let me look this cat up, and man, I started watching the interviews between you and him, man, and it was feeding me. Not a lot of interviews feed.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, it's hip hop and it's feeding me. And so it was just that synergy coming from y'all too. And me and my family just went on for the first time ever, we went on a vision retreat in Oregon. And it was about finding our purpose. It wasn't about the next moves. It wasn't about doing the next movie. And it was about, my wife was like, yo, well, if you're going to be on screen, I don't have any issues with it, but I have issues if you're in a movie that is not aligned with your purpose.
Yeah.
And so, because, in the marriage, this April 4th, we just celebrated 24 years.
24 years, man. I was like, my gosh,
so now,
the unicorns.
So now, she's holding me to it, you know? Yeah.
You should ask about that question that caller said about listening. Remember we were saying we got a guy who...
the two of us are single again. So, and, I didn't expect to be single at this stage in my life. So I was talking about going out on a date and just how the dynamics changed now. Like some of the questions were being asked, and somebody called in and said they were having a problem communicating with their significant other. And Torch suggested that, you're communicating at her, but are you listening to her? And I pointed out that, man, it was a time I thought I was listening in one of my last relationships, but I truly wasn't listening.
Yeah.
Did you have to learn how to listen in your
Yeah, that's that's every day.
He's like, shit.
That's every day. As a matter of fact, that's like when I really started acting. Because the acting, I took like a couple of acting classes, but what I remember is they were like, "Yo, you're not listening. You're forcing the line, but you're not responding." And so being married, my wife was like, "Yo, you just trying to clean things up. That's not what I'm saying." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So she was like, "I don't need the apologies. I just need you to listen." And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So she said, listen, and if you love me, you'll listen. And I'm learning how to perfect that. You know what I mean?
Still, after 24 years,
Yeah,
you're a slow learner, brother.
Yeah.
I don't think you stop learning though.
No, you don't, man.
Yeah.
You don't. You funny.
Stupid ass. Hard
You
headed.
need a sign language, brother? What you mean, man? You gotta put Post-its all over the house?
Yeah, G.
Just listen?
Pretty much. Sometimes,
Just an ear
man.
drawn on the wall. Like, listen, remember.
Sometimes.
How difficult, though, because most times is it to align your profession with your purpose? Because a lot of actors, acting it's not a shoe-in. It's not like you're going to get every job. So when you get a job, sometimes it's about getting a job.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes I would, just based on the conversations I've had, sometimes you got to take jobs you don't necessarily want.
Yeah,
right. You know, but are you beyond that, though?
Nah, I think I'm not beyond that, but you was talking about listening. But when I'm really listening,
Okay.
that there's no job that's supposed to be outside of my purpose.
Okay.
I think that I've sometimes either considered jobs or taken a job that was out of my purpose, maybe because it looked scarce, you know, and maybe I'm not trusting that he can, you know, he who started this in me, that he can complete it. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, my wife basically saying, look, you got dreams, I got dreams. When are we going to step out on those dreams? Yeah,
I like that. Do you you was talking about Boobie Miles, right? And a lot of times when Friday Night Lights too, when you're a professional high school athlete, a lot of times that's when you peak. You know what I mean? It doesn't get greater.
Glory days.
After that, we see actors, thespians, their careers go up and down and up and down and up and down. Your career, would you say, the trajectory has been fairly steady?
I mean, that's. I'm grateful. Steady. I think I've steady worked.
Okay.
I think. I think I've steady worked. I'll answer it like that.
You steady worked.
Yeah.
Do you ever get to a point like working in the music business? We'll see a lot of artists who are in the now get the spotlight. You know, they get the push over and over again. It's not a reflection on the person who's not getting the spotlight. But damn it, I'll be damned if I'm not like, shit, why they not looking at me? You know what I mean? Do you experience that at all? Like if you see Michael B. or Jonathan getting all of this push right now, and you may not get the same push for your projects. How do you navigate through that?
Oh man, you going in there? Ain't you?
I'm just not. You know what? Not at all. Because,
You're my therapist on this joint.
Go ahead and lay down if you want to get comfortable.
Are you jealous?
No. I think the word, because I think let's say when Antoine Fisher came out, right?
Yeah.
And with the Denzel push and all these, it was amazing, bro. It was tremendous. I followed all of that, and I always wonder. Sometimes you don't get the same push, the same spotlight. It's not a reflection of your work or who you are as an artist. But how do you cope with that?
I think I think it's the same reason why your interview with Tobe was powerful. Because I think Tobe is dope, not because he rhymes. I think he's dope because he found his voice.
Yeah.
And I can't say, you know, everything I did was my voice. Like some of the things I did was about the voice of pedigree, and I didn't always agree with everybody else's voice. But I let other people's voice steer my voice. So when I go back and I look back, if I'm mad at anything, I'm mad at not walking in my birthrights, which is confidence, courage, strength, and just trust that, you know, I can step out on that next thing that I see. So it's less about them, even though I pay attention and I go like, okay, it's dope.
Yeah.
You know, I think you mentioned Jonathan. I think, first of all, he is probably one of the on a younger generation where I go like, yo, cat got bars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God designed him.
Absolutely.
Like he designed me.
Absolutely.
And he didn't put us on a collision course.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't be him, and I'm not him. And as a matter of fact, I had a conversation with my agents, and I bought these seeds inside of the agency, and I was like, and I passed them around, and I was like, I asked everybody to identify what those was, and everybody was like calling them out. But the gist of it was like, I was like, look, these seeds all look the same, but they're all called to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, don't look at me like, what's his name? Because I have a different interest.
Mm-hmm.
I love, and I'm driven to stories about men, especially men of color, about transferring from one mindset into another. Like, that's my space.
Yeah.
I know that's my space. And though everybody else will, and everybody else, I love watching Will. I love, however, like where I sit, where I love is that when I'm having conversations about Antoine and it's going deeper and I'm just made that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I should get paid, but what's a payoff is when somebody be like, yo, D, and they don't go deep. They be like, yo, that was my story.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they got to say.
That's it.
And I'm like, I got you. That was my story too.
Yeah. I love that. Derek Lucas here, man. Derek Lucas here. I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that. DB, get in there, man.
You're playing the patriarch of this family. You play Chuck Bell on the series, The Crossover, and you know, I think when you watch an actor and you're playing a certain type of role for a certain number of years because you're young or whatever, then you finally see them start to take on like father roles and that sort of thing. And I just wondered, like, who were you looking at, or if there was anybody you were looking at for, how do I want to play this father, and who did it before that I can maybe borrow something from?
I turned the TV on this morning. Controversially, it was the Cosby Show.
You can't take away like how.
Yeah, you can't. You can't, because I was looking at him and I was going like, you know, the takeaway was like my private life, and like I was hearing this pastor talking about like you know, living one way out here, but you really somebody, and she was talking about your thought life. And I was checking my thought life, but I was looking at Cos, and I was like, yo, when my father wasn't there, that family setting reset family for me.
Yeah.
And so my takeaway from him was that I wanted to go in that lane. Like I told somebody else, like I didn't want to. First of all, I came to LA to do comedy. I didn't come to do drama. Wasn't interested. Didn't even know I had any dramatic lane in me. But when I look at the Cosby Show, man, like, you know, and he did it well, and he did it in excellence. And he wasn't just a black family. Yeah. I hear white families going like, he was my dad too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And they was like, yeah, I felt the same way. Mm-hmm. So, but when the crossover came, it was two reasons why I was tentative. One, it deals with health. Mm-hmm. Number two, it dealt with being a father, and I was just I was like, I'm too young to play. I'm not ready for that. Young to play a father,
you
man.
Want to pigeonhole yourself,
like,
right?
yo, I'm like, because
you look great, bro.
Oh,
like,
man.
You're well preserved, thanks to your wife.
But I'm like, you know, sometimes a Hollywood's version of a father is like, you know, ain't my version, you know, and so
Yeah, dude, you still look like you're in your 20s, man. What you doing? What's that skin regiment you got? What's that pH balance 9.5?
Same thing y'all drinking?
Same thing we drinking? Okay.
Man.
Okay, George Tillman, big round of applause for him. George Tillman Jr., LeBron James, EPs for this project, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly for LeBron? Did he show up on set or?
Nah, man.
I got games to play, dude.
Nah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of dope because it was like, you know, there's a sport in every industry. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know, if I'm thinking like an athlete, I'm thinking like, I got to finish my legacy. Mm-hmm. And does coming to set add to my specific legacy? It may broaden my business legacy, but does it to the now narrative? So I was hoping to see him on set, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he had his producers there, and but I get it. I understand what that focus time is like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, I was gonna see if you got an autograph ball or something.
Nah,
jersey.
I'm gonna request it now. Hey, LeBron, you listening, my G?
What do you do to get out of a block? Because sometimes like I have to watch a lot of stuff for work, and a lot of times it can be overwhelming. You're trying to keep up with everything, all the content that's constantly coming out. So what do you do when you need a break, and maybe you just need something to like re-inspire you again?
My wife gives me my baby. She's like, let this be a token that when you're on set, I'm keeping them. Bye. You know what I mean? She's like she'll tell me in a minute, like, you take them boys. I'm like, both of them? She's like, I have them all the time. And so, but nah, man, I put on something inspirational. I'll put on the Denzel film. Just kind of recalibrate what am I doing, what he would accept at this time and what wouldn't he, and that's how I get that inspiration.
Y'all still communicate a lot?
I communicate with him. Like, he comes to Broadway, I'm there. Like, I'll pay my tickets. Like, I didn't even know how much Broadway tickets were.
Yeah, they
like,
crazy.
I'm thinking like movie tickets, like movie folk. I'm gonna get the $45. Nah, it's like $700.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And so, my wife and I, we, every time he comes, we check him out.
That's what's up. That's beautiful to have that tie with him. I love that you mention your wife often when you talk. I think that's amazing. I think that's beautiful. And I love that you need it, right? Because nobody does this shit alone.
Yeah.
Nobody does it alone, especially in these fields that we are in. You need that. You need that fortitude. You need that support base. I love the work. You may not recall, but when we were talking last time, we were speaking about education and STEM. You and your wife have been working really hard to revolutionize how we educate our youth through hip-hop ed, in fact, right? How did that come to be?
Somebody gave me a script, and it sort of hinted to the, mentor and the mentee. It had that traditional formula to it. And just like after doing something like Antoine Fisher and that being so authentic, I was just like, I would love to find a voice for this generation right now. So my wife, man, she went on this hunt, and she was like praying, fasting, and she turned on YouTube and she was just looking for stuff, and she saw this professor, and we looked at each other and we're like, all right, well, the script is the bones, but he's the meat. And so we reached out to him, connected with him, and it's been like over 10 years. We've sort of been like brothers and ambassadors in education. To be totally honest, it was more a one lane. I connected with him to do research to develop the project. I didn't know like I was being divinely launched into an area where our education system needs to be flipped. And I got to see a lot. I get to see a lot in education, and I think we're on the verge of a revolution.
Yeah,
that's what I believe.
Okay, we're on the verge of a revolution.
Yeah,
I like that.
No,
that sounded a little cryptic and ominous too at the same time.
Yeah,
just left it there.
I mean, when you go inside the classrooms, like what we're learning, how it's being taught, and who we are culturally. Usually, like our film Cram asked the question, is there room in the classroom for culture? And people don't understand that when you exclude culture, like there was something called the Carlisle School.
Yeah. And
the model of the Carlisle School is, I think it was sort of like kill the Indian. And what that meant was shave their head, take their garb, and cut their hair. And I think it was like 10,000 students, and I think only 200 made it. They were suicides. They were like crazy things happened, and it was like a mirror of, I think, what has happened in our education system.
Cram.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that stand for?
It's taken, well, the writer, Kiki, she sort of lifted it from, don't
well, if you can't remember, don't worry, I'll edit it out.
But MC Light.
MC Light.
Like, yo, she lifted it.
To understand you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, I get it. I got it right there. Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. I crammed to understand you.
Yeah.
Okay, that was dope. Whoever came up with that shit. I'm glad you didn't remember. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Derek, I want to thank you for coming by, man, and I want to encourage all our citizens to make sure you go to Disney Plus to watch the crossover. Also, April 14th, which is Thursday, Rare Objects, which IFC will release.
Oh, it's Friday. Jesus,
Friday. It's Friday.
Yeah. Sorry, my fault.
And that's where you play Winshaw. And shout out to Katie Holmes, who's a citizen here. Man, it's good to have you, brother.
Hey, man, it's good to
I hope you had a good time, man.
Always, man.
Yeah?
Yeah,
All
man.
right,
You
cool.
got spirit, you got soul, you got talent and gift. But the fact that you got spirit, you know what I mean? Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Same here,
Send
man.
our regards to your lovely wife, too, all right?
No doubt.
All right,
You too,
cool.
man.
Up
Thank
next,
you, bro.
Jadakiss is on deck. Jadakiss is actually in the lobby.
Yeah,
So,
I saw him.
You saw him, right?
What up, Jadakiss?
Okay, Jadakiss and Set Free is coming up. We're going to world premiere a new song by Jadakiss. That's up next. You want to talk to Kiss? 888-742-3345.